We're studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 6, entitled Creation of the Universal Form, Text 35. It's March 9th, 2024. Hare Krishna. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaivanamoktamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, to Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesh vabhadreshu nicham bhagavata sevaya bhagavat yutamashloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. Text 35, Chapter 6, Canto 3 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Etat Kshata Bhagavata Deva Karma Atma Rupina Ka Shraddhadyat Upakartum Yogamaya Bala Udayam Etat Kshatar Bhagavato Deva Karmatma Rupina Kashwadadyad Upakartum Yogamaya Balodayam Etat Kshatar Bhagavato Deva Karmatma Rupina Kashwadadyad Upakartum Yogamaya Balodayam Etat Kshatar Bhagavato Deva Karmatma Rupina Kashwadadyad Upakartum Yogamaya Balodayam Etat Kshatar Bhagavato Deva Karmatma Rupina Kashwadadyat Upakartum Yogamaya Balodayam Etat Kshatar Bhagavato Deva Karmatma Rupina Kashwadadyat Upakartum Yogamaya Balodayam. Would someone online like to recite the verse?
Etat Kshatar Bhagavato
Etat Kshatar Bhagavato
Daiva Karmatma Rupina
Deva Karmatma Rupina
Kashadadyat Upakartum
Kashwadadyat Upakartum
Yogamaya Balodayam
Yogamaya Balodayam
Etat Kakshar Bhagavato
Etat Kshatar Bhagavato
Daiva Karmatma Rupina
Daiva Karmatma Rupina
Kashradaya Uparkaftum
Kashwadadyat Upakartum
Yogamaya Balodayam.
Yogamaya Balodayam. Okay, we'll go to the word meanings. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 6, Text 35. Etat, this. Ksata, O Vidura, Bhagavata, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Deva Karma Atma Rupina, of the gigantic form of transcendental work, time, and nature.
of the gigantic form of the transcendental work, time, and nature.
Ka.
Ka.
Who else?
Who else?
Shradayat.
Shraddhaya.
Can aspire.
Can aspire.
Upakartum.
Upakartum.
Measure in totality.
Measure in totality.
Yogamaya.
Yogamaya.
Internal potency.
Internal potency.
Bala udayam.
Bala udayam.
Manifested by the strength of.
Manifested by the strength of.
Translation. O Vidura, who can estimate or measure the transcendental time, work, and potency of the gigantic form manifested by the internal potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Maitreya is asking like a rhetorical question. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The froggish philosophers may go on with their mental speculations on the subject matter of the Virat, the gigantic form exhibited by the Yogamaya internal potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But factually, no one can measure such a vast exhibition. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 11, text 16, Arjuna, the recognized devotee of the Lord, says, Aneka bahu daravaktra netram pashyami tvam sarvato nanta rupam nantam namajam napunastavadim pashyami vishveshvara vishvarupa. Quote, O my Lord, O gigantic Vishvarupa form, O master of the universe. I see innumerable hands, bodies, mouths, and eyes in all directions, and they are all unlimited. I cannot find the end of this manifestation, nor do I see the middle nor the beginning. Bhagavad Gita was spoken to Arjuna, and the Vishvarupa was exhibited before him at his request. He was awarded the specific eyes to see this Vishvarupa, yet although he was able to see the Lord's innumerable hands and mouths, he was unable to see him completely. Since Arjuna was unable to estimate the length and breadth of the potency of the Lord, who else would be able to do so? One may only indulge in miscalculation like the frog philosopher. The frog philosopher wanted to estimate the length and breadth of the Pacific Ocean by his experience of a well 3 cubic feet large. And thus he began to puff himself up to become as big as the Pacific Ocean, but at last he burst and died by this process. This story is applicable to the mental philosophers who, under the illusion of the Lord's external energy, indulge in estimating the length and breadth of the Supreme Lord. The best path is to become a cool-headed, submissive devotee of the Lord. Try to hear about the Lord from the bona fide spiritual master, and thus serve the Lord in transcendental loving service, as suggested in the previous verse. Om Ganatmirandasya Yaginanjana Shalakaya Chakshura Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayamupakadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaragnatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Badan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpate Yubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 6, Text 35. Etak Shatar Bhagavato Deva Karmatma Rupina Kashwadadyat Upakartum Yogamaya Balodayam. O Vidura, who can estimate or measure the transcendental time, work, and potency of the gigantic form manifested by the internal potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay. So we get a sense of, as we do in so many verses, a sense of our entanglement and the process of liberation. Of course, it's described that Muktir Svaya Mukulitanjali Seva Tesman, that for the devotees not interested in liberation, to the extent we develop a pure devotional heart, we just want to serve. And Narayana Parasarve Na Kutashtana Bibhiti Svarga Pavarga Narakeshvapi Tuyarta Darshina. Lord Shiva tells to his consort Parvati, look at the devotees, they could be in hell, they could be in heaven, and they just want to serve. And then that mentality, oh, just let me serve you, Krishna's pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada, then the irony is that is liberation. That is the liberation that the yogis and the jnanis seek for. And so so it's described here about who can estimate or measure the transcendental time. So the idea, so this gets to like the jnani propensity, okay, so that yes, I'll figure things out, I'll figure things out. And we might imagine the image, the metaphor of a great maze, of a great maze. Okay, so one thing is okay, so one thing is to admit that I'm lost in this maze, that I'm lost, because we can be like, no, what maze? Everything's clear. And then so to take that out of the analogy, it means first to want self-realization, like that to actually desire something other than the animal enjoyments, forms, in gross or glorified forms of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Okay, eating, so that's what the cats and dogs and the trees, and so eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And so to the extent that that's what we're absorbed, then our statement is, I don't want self-realization. I'm satisfied with animal type enjoyments. Okay, animal type enjoyments. And then that's according to the Bhagavatam. Kamasya Nendriya Pritir Labu Jive Tayavata Jivasya Tattva Jivyasa Nartoyaschaya Karma Bhi. That's kind of sad, because human life is meant for inquiry into the absolute truth, inquiry into that which is not just the temporary gratification of the senses with the sense objects, inquiry into that which is beyond, that which is ephemeral, that which is true, good, and beautiful in all time and space. So as spiritual beings in the human form, we have that opportunity. So not to neglect the sense gratification. Metaphor is so often used by Prabhupada, and we like to follow in that example. That we should be healthy, keep body and soul together, and not neglect the car and use it for inquiry into the absolute truth, inquiry into these questions that other species don't get to answer. What's the difference between body and self, spirit and matter? What happens at the time of death? Okay, and so yeah, so I want self-realization. That's like a beginning. That's like a beginning of human life. It's something distinctive about the human form. Yes, okay. So then we go with like, all right, and I'll figure it out. I'll fit. So then that becomes like the Jnani propensity, which is addressed here. Prabhupada uses this comical imagery of the froggish philosopher. Comical, but it's quite tragic. At last, the frog burst and died by this process. Okay, so so um, so one thing. So this whole process, mental intellectual endeavor. Yes, we're not supposed to block that. We're not supposed to block that in our process of bhakti yoga. I just like to demystify it and say if in any field, let's say we want to become really expert in physics, you could say, okay, so one thing, again, like, yeah, well, I want to learn about physics. Just take like, yeah, I want self-realization. So I really want to learn about physics. So, and I'm just going to figure it out. I'm just going to figure it out. I'm not going to consult the books of the authorized physicists. I'm not going to go to an authorized degree. I'm just going to figure it out. And okay, let's take that as an analogy. So, yeah, so then if we just, now one thing is like, how sincere are we? Okay, how sincere are we to really know physics? Maybe there's some sincerity, but if I'm really sincere, it's kind of like, I kind of find a teacher, find a degree program, find professors like that, professors who've like really studied Newton and Einstein and like that. And so, yes, so then, Hare Krishna, welcome. Yes, then we say, no, I'm going to figure it out myself. And maybe if we're sincere, maybe we'll come up with some of the, maybe we'll get a fraction of what the authorized geniuses of physics have landed upon over the centuries and millennia, from Archimedes, the Greeks, and into the atomic age, and Einstein, and Niels Bohr, and Newton, and okay, maybe we'll get something. Maybe we'll get something. So similarly, one thing. So to sincerely want self-realization and to want realization about that which is absolute. So to kind of, I'll do it on my own, the rugged individualist, then maybe we'll get somewhere. Maybe we'll get somewhere in that process. And Krishna addresses this mentality in many places. There's a particular verse in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Bahunam janmanamante gyanavan mam prapajante vasudeva sarva vasudeva sarvam iti samhatmu sudurava. So Krishna says, by that process, if one's sincere, then maybe after a while doesn't mean like a week or two, it's like lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes, then they'll come to the realization that I, Vasudeva, meaning the son of Vasudev, I am the source of everything, and they'll come to bhakti yoga. And that's a theme throughout Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita gives so many processes, and they always culminate in bhakti yoga, whether it's Raja Yoga, Hatha Yoga, Varnashram system, impersonal path, jnana path. They always culminate in bhakti. That's the thread. Without that thread, which Prabhupada reminds us of like every page a few times, without that thread, then Bhagavad Gita to me anyway, it's kind of this just mishmash, hodgepodge. It says this, that's cool, like that. But bhakti is the thread. Okay. So Krishna is one who takes that path, if they're sincere. Then after many births and deaths, they'll come to that absolute knowledge, absolute path. Absolute in the sense of bhakti is absolute service to Krishna, the Supreme Person of Godhead, because in bhakti, the process is the goal. The journey is the goal. So here we are studying Bhagavatam. And this morning we chanted Hare Krishna in order to get to the goal of purification of heart and towards love of Krishna. So that's the journey that takes us to the goal. And sometimes that's the goal. So like we're absorbed. Bhagavatam is the pastimes of Krishna's pure devotees. And so what happens when we come to that state of pure bhakti? Then we absorb ourselves in the past in Bhagavatam and chanting Hare Krishna. So we'll do the same thing. So the journey is the goal. We just do it with greater purity and enthusiasm and like that. And so, okay. And there's also a text in Sri Brahma Samhita. Prabhupada quotes often. Pantastu koti satavatsara sampragamyo vayor tapi manasam muni pungavanam sopyastya prapadasimnya vichinchya tattve govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. So that verse, Sri Brahma, it's the 5th chapter of Brahma Samhita. Actually, there's 100 chapters of Brahma Samhita, but only one is existent. They were all lost to antiquity. But Lord Chaitanya, when he was traveling in South India, in a corner of some old temple, I forget which temple, Adikeshava temple. Adikeshava, I got it. Oh, good, thank you. So Lord Chaitanya found the 5th chapter of Brahma Samhita, and so that's the only chapter we have, and that's enough to keep one engaged for a full lifetime and more. So, so that text says that if the jnanis are sincere for millions of lifetimes, and if the yogis trying to meditate on Paramatma in the heart, if they're sincere in controlling the breath and all of that, after millions of lifetimes, then they'll come to realize a glimmer of the radiance from the radiance of Krishna's toenails. So we can go somewhere in that path. And that's all assuming that we're sincere. Because, I can look at, especially like when I was for years, my only service was to take prasad. And I consumed a lot of prasad. Heart got a little purified. Summer of '83, backpacking around Europe. Then you might say that was the beginning. Then I decided, okay, I'm gonna chant. Before that, I read some Prabhupada's books, so that wasn't just like Krishna's tricking me, like with the sense gratification. I read Prabhupada's books, began to chant. And then, it was about 20 years ago this year, I'm going to make a commitment. And many of you have heard my story. Won't go through the whole thing again, or even part of it, but then once I made a commitment, then there was these tormenting doubts from my mind and intellect, the tormenting doubts. And even then I had a sense, not like I would read something, that's not true. And, compare it to my progressive, modern, postmodern education. But this says this here and that here. Now, even then I had a sense, and that's why I kind of stayed with the process, that this isn't like a flaw. It's like basically the doubts, they were basically a manifestation in one sense of my lack of sincerity. I just wanted an escape hatch to just do my life of sense gratification and do what I want to do, and to not surrender. But see, Krishna says, if one is sincere, then one can make progress on the path. Let's go back to our studying physics analogy. Okay, at the same time, like if I'm really sincere and it's not about my ego and how many formulas I can discover, I realized like I wanted to accelerate on this path of becoming a master in physics. Then there's authorized books, there's professors, you know, who've who really established themselves and like that. And so then that's where we go. That's where we go. So similarly, we're serious about self-realization, and we're really serious, and we find a professor. We find a degree program that would be called the Sampradaya. Sometimes Prabhupada defines Sampradaya as like a party, it's a very mundane analogy, but like there's the Republican Party and the Democrat Party, and every country has their political parties. So we have our Sampradaya. Now, fortunately, in genuine spiritual Sampradaya, there's no competition. And so like there's the Lakshmi Sampradaya, there's the Brahma Sampradaya, yeah, there's the Kumara Sampradaya, there's the Shiva Sampradaya. No, the Shiva Sampradaya, that's not like when you find today's, oh, Lord Shiva, yeah, oh yeah. They're probably not following the Shiva. Vaishnavanam Yata Sambhu, we just mentioned that yesterday, Vaishnavanam Yata Sambhu. And so it means Shiva is the greatest devotee of Krishnaism. So there's a Vaishnav Sampradaya, and Shiva is the chief spiritual master, just like the head spiritual master in our Sampradaya is Brahma through Madhvacharya, through Madhvacharya, through Madhavendra Puri, through Ishvara Puri, through Lord Chaitanya Goswami, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta, Gaurkishore Das Babaji, Srila Prabhupada. So there's no competition through bona fide. And there's kind of slightly different flavors. Then there's the opposite, those where in the name of bhakti, it's bogus. And we want to be careful of them. And Prabhupada gives us plenty of knowledge to make distinctions. What's a bogus bhakti sampradaya? He gives plenty of Shruta Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidivina Akantaki Harer Bhakti Utpadaya Iva Kalpade. And that's Prabhupada quotes that verse, that even if one's practicing bhakti, not according to an authorized party, an authorized degree program, well, it's still like there could be some benefit. You're still chanting some names, but all in all, it's a disturbance. It's more of a disturbance rather than a service. Prabhupada sometimes give the example of like, if there's burning, if a log is burning, yeah, the fire, you can use fire in service. The smoke is a disturbance. Okay, so all right, then so then we find, I really want self-realization, I want the absolute truth, and then we find someone who's fully realized that they're not the body, fully Yea Krishna Tattva Veda say Guru Haya. That's like a true guru, someone who's absorbed. We can use a negative analogy, someone who's addicted to Krishna, someone who's, that was when Prabhupada had some well-known conversation with the Beatles, like John Lennon, Yoko Ono, George Harrison, Ringo, and Paul McCartney. I think they were all there, including, Yoko. Wouldn't be considered as a Beatle, but this is trivia. We won't get into that. So, so like John Lennon is like, well, there's so many versions of Gita. You say yours, and this. There's so many versions of Gita. So how can we know? How can we know? And so I said, well, So Prabhupada didn't say you should. Prabhupada said, you want to find the one who's presenting Gita, who is addicted to Krishna, and then follow him. Okay. So, so all right. So then, then it's a quick path. Then it's not the Jnani path. Then it's not about like my false ego, I'm so smart. Then then we have a teacher. Then it's like, oh, then we turn our brain off. Not at all. Not at all. Again, let's go back to the physics analogy. Let's say that the authorized physics professor with the authorized book in the degree program at any level, whether it's undergrad, master's, PhD, postdoc. Okay, then they're presenting something. and we're applying our intelligence, how to understand it. We're applying our intelligence. And we might ask question, it says this here and it says that here. I'm not understanding. And it's all based on trust. That like, I trust you can respond to my question. Now, maybe you might not respond immediately because you want me to do my own work and like that. But I trust that if I read these books, the apparent contradictions will be resolved. And so similarly, that's why we have these classes and discussion and questions and response. And it's like, what's your perspective? But well, now I'm really not sure what Prabhupada means here. My understanding is this. Oh, that's interesting. I never considered from that perspective. So that way we enrich our understanding of the Siddhanta. We enrich our Siddhanta means the conclusive truth. And by sharing our perspectives, and when we refine and deepen and strengthen and expand our realizations about the conclusive, about the Siddhanta, the Prabhupada's spiritual master, Bhakti Siddhanta. So Bhakti with conclusive truth. Prabhupada, same meaning, Bhakti Vedanta. Okay, Vedanta, the end of Bhakti, the conclusion of the Vedas, conclusion of the Vedanta Sutra. Tatchadadan Munayo Gyanam Vairagim Yuktaya Pashantyat Mani Chatmanam Bhakti Shuta Grihitaya. The humble student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes the absolute truth by rendering service according to an authorized party, an authorized sampradaya, according to the Vedic Siddhanta. And so, yes, and so our intellect is fully engaged. Our intellect is at every step of the process to deepen our understanding, ask questions. But blind following is discouraged. Tadvidhi patena paripashtena sevaya upadekshanti teganam gyaninas tatvadarshina. That's the quintessential guru verse. 4th chapter Bhagavad Gita, text 34. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a genuine professor, a bona fide professor. Inquire, ask questions with that some humble mood. So that's different than, let's say we're in the physics class and it goes like, oh, you said this here, but the book says this. You're an idiot. You don't know anything. Okay, like, all right, so that's not going to work, right? We can imagine the professor that wouldn't even be or inspired to respond, because it might be like, that's well, you said that, and then yesterday's reading assignment, I read that. I'd like to understand the connection. And okay, I appreciate your intelligent question. So that's the humble mood of inquiry. That's the humble mood of inquiry. And then we make rapid advancement. And the inquiry itself is service. And then service, like, how can I serve your mission? And like that. And we can say, okay, so till now, this presentation has been about approaches to knowledge. We can call it epistemology, approaches to knowledge. At the same time, this is very vital. That's why when we read Maitreya, Vidura, Prabhupada, Krishna, Arjuna, Maharaj Parikshit, when we read Narada Muni, there's a lot of compassion, because I gave the maze analogy, and we can think okay, well, there could be, we can get someone who has a guide. Here's a guide. I can take you out of this maze efficiently. Right? No, I'll do it myself. Okay, that's the Jnani process. At the same time, there's urgency. They're trying to fill us with urgency, be urgent. Urgent means I appreciate the value of each moment. It's a quality of a devotee. That a devotee is doesn't want to waste a moment. Kalatvam. Yes, a devotee doesn't want to waste a moment of the valuable human form of life, and so because you can say, well, nah, this is really nice here, just wandering in the maze and like that, and then so Krishna's often says, no, it's not nice. It's not nice. like have enough self-awareness, you're suffering. You're suffering. Mamu page to Kantia to Galayam Shasvatam. So that's Prabhupada. Prabhupada compares us unfavorably to Arjuna in the purport. We don't do well in the comparison. So Arjuna is so qualified, and we're like, and Arjuna is like, I'm not going to get this. I'm on my own. I'm not going to get this. So Arjuna, he know on his own, he's not going to get this. So at some point, pretty early in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna says, Karpani dosha patasvabhava prichami tvam dharmasamuda cheta yat shreyasyan nishtita bruhi tanme shishasteham sanimam tvam prapanam. Arjuna says, now I'm confused about my duty. I'd lost my composure due to weakness. In this condition, I ask you, tell me clearly what to do. He's approaching the professor. Tell me clearly what to do. Now I'm your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. Okay. And then again, let's take the Arjuna example. Arjuna is a real historical personality and he represents us. And so it's not like, okay, now Arjuna is turning off his brain, because no, Arjuna's paying careful attention. And at some points, even though he's surrendered there in chapter 2, text 7, but at some points he says, well, Krishna, just like we use the physics professor, you said this here and you said this here. I'm not understanding. Okay, so he has healthy, submissive, even skeptical spirit. But he's fully trusting Krishna. Once we come to that part of the Gita, he's not cynical. He's not like, you said this, you said that. Here said karma yoga. There you say jnana. You can't make up your mind. I'm going to the forest. And it says, okay, humble submission. And I have a question. Yeah, and Krishna says, yeah, I'm ready to respond to your questions till you're fully satisfied. Ask me. Krishna's ready to speak the whole Bhagavad Gita again and again. Okay. He says, I can't believe. Yeah, Arjuna, it seems like Arjuna has similar questions again and again. Why did he just get it? Okay. Kind of like, yeah, why didn't I get it for like the first 45 million times? Okay. So Arjuna took like almost an hour to get it. I can't believe it. So yes. So this is so it's similarly with Sanatan Goswami. Yes, there was Sanatan Goswami. He's like Arjuna. Arjuna is great, even in the material sense. Arjuna is an amazing personality. Sanatan Goswami, amazing personality. It's about 500 years ago. And Sanatan Goswami, when he approaches Lord Chaitanya, Kayami Keni Maya Jari Tapatraya, he says, Sanatan Goswami, he says, yeah, people think I'm great. He fluent in so many languages. He was pretty much the prime minister, wealthy, intelligent, influential, powerful, had it all together. People were envious of him. They were envious of him. That's why when it's like those working under his direction were envious of him and this and that. And when he said, yeah, but people think I'm great. He said, I'm such a fool that I believe them. I believe him. I'm such a fool. But he says, actually, the reality, Lord Chaitanya, is I don't even know who I am. Kayami, who am I? And I do know I'm suffering. I do know I'm suffering. So that means like I'm not pretending. It's really nice in the Maya. So Krishna's is just like wake up enough, come out of Avaranatmika Shakti, two basic functions of Maya. It gets a little complicated. There's more than two, but one function of Maya is the throwing potency, throws us into illusion in response to I want to be an illusion, and then the covering potency. That once we're there and really suffering and we're embarrassed again and again and again, embarrassing, painful, pathetic. And we're there, now I'm doing really well. I'm happy. Okay. Prabhupada gives the example of like the pig in mud. Indra, the great king of heaven, had a high standard of material enjoyment. He was cursed to be a pig. And then it was time for him to go back to heaven. He was like, no, I'm doing really good here. Got my slop to eat, got my wife, we got our piglets. Then he saw the piglets and the wife going to be their head chopped off. And you awaken like this isn't really a very nice place, is it? Yeah. So yeah, so not like okay, in the maze, it's just like, there's foul odors. We're we're stumbling, we're cracking our head, we're twisting our ankle, we're getting attacked by all sorts of vicious creatures. And so kind of like, no, get urgent, get out of this maze. Get out of this maze, but I'll figure it out. Okay, maybe you'll make a little progress if you're sincere. But like, yeah, take shelter of those who are free from the maze. They give you perfect instructions without mistake, without illusion, without propensity for cheating, and without limitations, without imperfections. Perfect knowledge how to get out of the maze, how to learn physics, whatever analogy we want to use. Okay, and so yeah, again, like let's say on my own, let's say, oh, okay, yeah, I understand. So I want self-realization. I'll figure it. Like, yeah, let's say if it weren't for Prabhupada's books, if it weren't for hearing from Prabhupada, probably at this time, I would not have come to even an intellectual realization about, who I am is not the body. What to speak of, yes, to Harinam, Harinam, Harinam Eva Kevalam Karan Nastav Gatiramyata, to chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, to follow these regular principles, rise from within program. A lot of my studies are in fields like psychology. It is said about psychology that first psychology, about modern psychology, first psychology lost its soul, then it lost its conscience, and now it's lost its mind altogether. So if we look at like history of psychology, first they take the soul out, and then we get to the behavioristic approaches. Then there's not even such a thing as mind. It's just all like physical action and reaction like that. So I'll leave that as an example in one field where kind of like that, just kind of that speculative method without reference to authorized party, authorized professor. It doesn't actually there's no progress. They're gone further and further from the truth about who we are, further and further from the truth about who we are. So, okay. So just in closing, I'll read the verse again, make one more comment, and I'll be glad to hear your questions and comments. O Vidura, who can estimate or measure the transcendental time, work, and potency of the gigantic form manifested by the internal potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? So the internal potency, so that reminds me, Bhagavad Gita, because we can think, the material energy is the external potency. And that's true from one point of view. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Devyesha Gunamai, Mama Maya Dhiratyaya, Mama Vaye Prapadyante, Mayam Etam Tarantite. So he says like this divine energy of mine. And he's speaking about the material energy. Because from Krishna's point of view, it's all divine. This divine energy of mind, he said, it's very difficult. It's practically impossible to overcome, meaning like to just try to get out of the maze on your own. Practically impossible. You're just going to go round, maybe get some hints, but maybe not. You might just get more and more lost in the maze. Very different, practically impossible. But Krishna says, but for one who takes shelter in me, means and of course Krishna's method is approach a bona fide professor, self-realized soul, pure devotee of Krishna. One who takes shelter in me, then he can easily cross over the otherwise insurmountable ocean of the material energy. So I'll read the verse one more time. Etat kshatar bhagavato deva karmatma rupini kashadadyad pakartum yogamaya bhavodaya. O Vidura, who can estimate or measure the transcendental time, work, and potency of the gigantic form manifested by the internal potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Hare Krishna. Thank you all. We have about 11 icons, maybe a dozen or 15 Prabhus here online. And whether in person or online, any comments or questions from anyone? Bhaktin Danya.
Hi, Krishna. I feel like this is an answer to my prayers having this class today. I'm feeling really, really appreciative of everything that you've expressed. And I have a question. I have a lot of questions. And I guess, so Shravanam Kirtanam, that's like, we have 9 ways to love God, Shravanam Kirtanam, those are the first 2. They're like Shravanam Kirtanam.
They are foundational. Yeah.
So hearing and then chanting or glorifying or speaking, and I've heard that preaching increases sincerity, because I want to increase my chanting sincerity. I was asking about it and I was told by devotees that I trust that chanting is going to be increased by preaching, that the preaching increases the sincerity. And because we're challenged, and by getting challenged, when we get challenged, then we have to endeavor to listen more closely, is what I'm thinking, is what's happening there. That's my sense. And so using the professor analogy, like using the understanding that, like, I am enrolled in the University of Srila Prabhupada, and I am endeavoring to practice Krishna consciousness under his tutelage. At some point, he's going to want me to start holding like TA, like classes, or he's going to want me to start writing research papers. And we can see so many examples of this, people who write their dissertations, even, who are like doing work for Srila Prabhupada in these areas.
Yes.
So like, my question, I guess, is what's the balance between the Shravanam and the Kirtanan? I know that they go together. They're like symbiotic. And I understand also that it's incumbent upon us to share. It's not just like, okay, we study and we stay in this place of like forever student or forever 21 brahmachari student. And I don't want to stay in that place. I want to endeavor with enthusiasm to move myself into, okay, I'm going to take initiation. I'm going to preach the glories of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And like, what does that, like, and I don't want to become puffed up. I don't want to explode like the frog philosopher, right? I don't want to do that. I don't want to get lost in the maze. Hare Krishna.
Well, thank you, Bhakti Daniel. I appreciate your question. Very relevant question. Yes, we are Gostinanandis. Okay, that's a term that means, in our party, following Prabhupada, we're meant to share. The word preach has some negative connotations, but preach, Pritiviti Achiyata Nagarati Gram Savacha Prachara Hoibe Morina. Pritiviti Prachara, the Sanskrit word or Bengali for preach is prachara. So we can see the English root comes from the Sanskrit or the Bengali. So it means, like, in the line of Lord Chaitanya, Srila Prabhupada, we're meant to support that mission to spread Krishna consciousness to every town and village, every household. And so we're meant to do that. And yes, we can see Srila Prabhupada, he didn't have any need from a material point of view to leave Vrindavan. He was very well situated. Of course he was preaching, he was writing books, he was everyone he met, but he came to the West. So that's the spirit. That's the spirit. And so, as fun, it's not for me to say every sincere follower of Prabhupada what's their service in relation to Prabhupada, but I'm confident to say, for the most part, with maybe very, very few rare services, where it's not our service as followers of Prabhupada to hide in a cave for the next 50 years and just chant. It's not our service. Like, even if we were qualified to do so, because if I did, I would just think about lunch and stuff like that, and what about my bank account? So, but even one who is, like, Prabhupada's completely qualified to just chant 192 rounds per day or like that, like Haridas Thakur, and he came to the West to give us Krishna consciousness. So as far as the balance, it's a wonderful question, and like we all have our that it's an individual question, but we get guidelines from Prabhupada. Because at the same time, okay, remember, this was, okay, I heard about, this was a very leading, influential devotee in Srila Prabhupada's movement back in the 70s. Like, he was a influential leader. And we heard from some who were serving close with him, we heard into the 80s, that at some point he left Prabhupada's movement, he left the practice. And I've seen some videos recently, he's back into the practice, so that's nice. You know, Krishna, everyone has their path. But anyhow, what I was in, because he was really managing and he was inspiring, and he was the cause of so much book distribution and et cetera, like that. But then he became weak, you know, and he felt. And then I heard from someone who was a person who said at one point, it was clear he was not chanting. He wasn't fulfilling his commitment to chant 16 rounds. It was kind of suspected, like, does he chant any japa at all? And at one point he was not questioned, gently confronted about it by well-meaning people. People didn't want to just criticize him. But he said, was Arjuna chanting japa? Arjuna was there with his bow and arrow, winning the battle. And it was hard for others to challenge him because he was apparently doing so much service. But he didn't cultivate the basic sadhana, the basic hearing, and then of course he lost his potency and like that. So I'm giving that as an example that yeah, we are for sure. So Prabhupada gives us, you know, for those who are serious. I mean, if we chant one Hare Krishna Maha Mantra this lifetime, that's glorious, that's wonderful. And Prabhupada's like, if we want to make progress every day out of the material ocean, out of the maze, he recommends a minimum of 16, as I know you're aware. So yeah, so like if we find ourselves not doing 16, because I got so much service to do, we can be sure we're in Maya. We can be sure we're in Maya. Okay. All right. And then maybe someone, maybe like, yeah, I want at least a few days a week, I want to chant 20 rounds. Yeah, we want to increase that. And then at the same time, you know, at the same time, like, yeah, like what's our practical service? Chanting is practical, but I'm using the term in a way I trust you understand, to share Prabhupada's movement, distribute prasad and kirtan and the holy name and the books and the philosophy, and to give Krishna consciousness to people in my workplace or in my neighborhood. Yeah, how am I doing that? So our mood is not to go to a cave and just study and just chant. And at the same time, if in the name of I'm out there doing service, we find ourselves neglecting the fundamentals, then we got some Maya consciousness going on. So that's the guidelines, that's the principles. Thank you. Thank you, Bhakti and Daniel. Hare Krishna. Nichigopal.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much for the wonderful discussion on the importance of accepting authorized scriptures and authorized person, and how although a person may endeavor by himself to gain this knowledge, but you mentioned that shloka bahunam janmanam ante gyanvan mam prapadyante. After many lifetimes, a person would be able to achieve the understanding that Krishna is the supreme. I was just reflecting back how this verse can be maybe relevant to the practitioner of Krishna consciousness as well. That how when we come to Krishna consciousness, we understand there are a lot of services, a lot of aspect of Krishna consciousness. Recently, I came across one description, one kind of conversation between Arjuna and Krishna in Padma Purana. It was mentioned where Krishna was mentioning about his holy name to Arjuna, and Krishna says, "Nameva paramam jnanam." Nameva paramam jnanam. There is no knowledge better than my name. So, as a practitioner of Krishna consciousness, to be able to come to this point that the whole knowledge is embedded in the holy name. Even though by my own effort, I may try to endeavor to read Srila Prabhupada books, understand scriptures for many, many lifetimes, but the kind of realization, the kind of knowledge which we can get by absorbing ourselves into the holy name is unparalleled. So understanding that the holy name of Krishna is the ultimate source of knowledge, and the knowledge is I'm more and more absorbed in the hearing the holy name. I think that was I was reflecting that how we as a practitioner sometimes get diverted from the main, as he was mentioning, chanting 16 round as our core sadhana. So if you are not just thinking of this point, and also the point you mentioned to Bhaktin Daniel about the discrimination between technically Bhagavad Vidhi and Pancharatriki Vidhi.
Yeah.
Bhagavad Vidhi, where we do our japa, we do our reading. It's more of a personal growth. Is more of a for my own self. Is more of a Shravanam and Kirtanam, which the great pure devotee can only do that. Only can do that. Then we also practitioner of bhakti also are supposed to perform Pancharatriki Vidhi, performing regulated devotion service,
Very
like
good.
praying and deity worship and things like that, and offering bhoga and preaching and things like this. I was just reflecting back in a couple of points. Just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Nichigopal Prabhu. Thanks for your very relevant comments. Yeah, that's definitely in this discussion about outreach, sharing, and then regulative practice that relates to Prabhupada makes that the relationship and distinction between Bhagavad Gita, Pancharatrika Viti. And that's a very rich exploration. And I'll say, like, now, yeah, so, right, so Krishna's name, it reveals truth and it's non-different from the truth it reveals. So in chanting Hare Krishna, all that knowledge, it's there, and we might have different levels of realization or lack of it. But as we get purified, we get realization. And I'll make a distinction, because you said two things. One, studying scriptures, reading Prabhupada's books. So I'll make a distinction there, that because one thing could be like a Jnani study scripture, but studying Srila Prabhupada's books, yeah, I mean, we might approach it with different levels of purity or lack of purity, and I want to collect knowledge and this and that. Srila Prabhupada books also, every word, every line in Prabhupada's books reveals truth and is non-different from the truth that it reveals. So that's why I know myself, as years and decades go on, I'm more and more reading Prabhupada's books to associate with Prabhupada, and not so much to collect knowledge or even expand my knowledge of the philosophy, although that happens. In fact, it happens more deeply than it used to happen when I was trying for that. So Srila Prabhupada's books is that's Shravanam. That's Shravanam, and we want to approach that, studying Prabhupada's books, not from a Jnani perspective, but even if we do that, just like we can approach chanting Hare Krishna with so many other desires, we can approach Prabhupada's books from whatever desires, and we get purified. So Srila Prabhupada's books also, in each word is non-different from the knowledge that it's signifying. So that's why the transformational potency is there. Thank you, Nichigopal.
Yeah, so just wanted to make some clarification here. And yeah, right distinction, if you approach Srila Prabhupada books from any perspective, will be benefited. What I really meant was that if we read Srila Prabhupada books, we may get benefited, but unless we chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we will not be able to absorb and practice. So the information will not become the jnana will not become vijnana.
Yeah.
The information will not become the realized knowledge. That's what I really meant.
Thank you, Nichigopal. Hare Krishna.
And also just one practical point came to my mind, what devotees or myself I practice nowadays, that when we are in difficulty, we are in challenge, we are looking for guidance, we are looking for some sort of a solution of any sort of material or spiritual questions, and during chanting all these ideas comes to me, that start solving the problem, start solving the situation, start getting some sort of an answer during chanting. So if you have that faith, if I have that faith that by chanting Hare Krishna mantra, the Hare Krishna is going to reveal that knowledge to me, whatever I need to solve this problem. So instead of focusing on solving the problem during chanting and understanding that holy name has all the knowledge, whatever it needs, it will give to me. So it helps me, focusing on the name than trying to solve the existential or the spiritual problems.
Thank you, Nichigopal. Yeah. Practically, I regularly have experience where like I'm caught, I'm not figuring things out, I'm in anxiety, how am I going to handle that situation later today? And then just giving myself to the process of chanting Hare Krishna Japa, I get realization and revelation I wouldn't get if I tried to think about it for 100 years. Krishna's cottage.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank
Mother.
you for the class.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. I just wanted to add to the conversation just personal experience, and it's not very long sharing, just that I don't come to Bhakti Yoga with a strong sense of discipline or even willpower or whatever it takes to get the rounds done or be a Bhakti yogi. It's not easy for me, even though I don't struggle with faith, which is nice, but willpower and personal practice is challenging. And I do find personally that doing outreach, whether it's going out in public or hosting programs, it really supports my chanting practice. And like, it gives me a reason, because if the practice is for me,
Yeah.
I'm not that motivated.
Yeah.
But if the practice is to bring souls back to Krishna, or I mean, maybe this is the illusion what I'm saying. I'm just, this is just where I'm at. It's not like I'm preaching right now, but if it's for me, I'm not that motivated. But if it's for a bigger purpose, or if it's for Srila Prabhupada, I have this like compassion. Not that I live this way all the time, because I forget about Prabhupada and Krishna all day long. But when I'm out, at least, a few hours, or if I have an event and hosted or something, then I'm feeling compassion for Srila Prabhupada and his difficult mission, and Lord Krishna and his lost souls who he'd rather be spending time with in, total clean devotional exchange, loving exchange. Then I feel like there's more purpose to the personal practice to purify my ability, to bring people back to God. So that just brings like so much more meaning to the personal practice. And the other thing I wanted to share related to just solving problems is sometimes I go to Prabhupada and just read something, and oftentimes it's perfect. And even if it's just to bring me out of my rumination, like, so let's say I'm ruminating on something, it could just be like I'm reading something technical about material nature or whatever, but or the cosmos. It helps, but a lot of times it's like, whoa, this is directly related, and I'm like, I can't believe it. Look what I just read. So anyway, those are my two sharings. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing them, Auntie. Yeah, I'm inspired over the many years by your dedication to going out there and sharing kirtan, giving Prabhupada's books, giving prasadam lollipops, etc., etc. And then you have that purpose, and then that strengthens your inspiration to chant japa, and it goes together, because then you get more potency to try to relieve Prabhupada's burden by getting out there. And what you just said about Prabhupada's books, I had that experience this morning. I'm working on a writing project, kind of almost complete. When I was one particular thing, and just in my personal reading, I was actually reading in the second chapter of Adi Lila Chaitanya Charitamrita, and I read a verse that from Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, translated and purported by Srila Prabhupada, and it was, inconceivably perfect how much it just like spoke to exactly what I needed for where I was stuck in the writing project. It was just inconceivable. So thanks for sharing that. Other comments or questions? Okay, so I'm going to read some chat, and then we do have a couple of questions. So Bhakti Oasis wrote, this is clarifying. I'm feeling supported by this discussion and feel grateful. Hare Krishna. I'm going to re-listen to this class a few times as soon as it is posted. I feel so appreciative and uplifted. Thank you again, Hare Krishna. I'm moved by your words. Thank you, Bhakti Danielle. Anandini.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for your class and all the questions and sharings. Yeah, I can, like, there's so much happening in my mind and heart right now, hearing this class and discussion and looking at, like, I always like to see what's the practical application of this philosophy. And so having a teacher that opens my eyes, that I get to see reality as it is.
Yeah.
And then it requires that I'm ready to reevaluate my values.
Yeah.
And they will get, that's my experience, they are like put on the head sometimes.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just right now, so we moved to this new place. It's very beautiful, and I feel very happy here. And just next to us, like 10 meters from the door, there's this cow farm.
Cow farm.
And they're producing milk. That's the main thing they want to produce. It's a milk factory. They have 50 cows and 30 calves, and it's just total misery. So I kind of live in this Vaikuntha place, and next door is Kali Yuga, just hellish for the cows.
Hellish Kali Yuga.
And so I'm in this meditation and trying to figure out and handle the situation. Like today I heard the cows crying, and my husband said, they are really loud today. And I was kind of cynical, and I said, well, probably the butcher came. And then it turned out it was true. True. The calves were taken away, and the mothers were crying. It's so painful. And I think what to do. And as the Damayanti shared, like you open the book and you read and you get guidance from Srila Prabhupada. Just now in our reading group of Srimad Bhagavatam, we're reading Canto 1, Chapter 17, and the first few verses and purports. Srila Prabhupada, it's when Kali meets Dharma and Bhumi, the cow and the bull.
Yeah.
And Srila Prabhupada just writes about slaughterhouses and cow protection in all these purports. And I don't know how to integrate what I read there. Like, so Parikshit, he's ready to kill Kali because he hurt the cow.
Yeah.
That's how serious it is. And that's happening next door to where I live.
Yeah.
And I have this knowledge, and I feel compassion for the farmer and his wife and the children. And they are, we met them. They're quite relatively nice people. So it's just like I feel like I entered, like in computer games, you get to the next level.
Yeah.
I skipped maybe 5 levels, and I'm getting trained hopefully soon to deal with all of this, like emotionally and also practically. What do I, and philosophically, how, without becoming or without staying cynical.
Without staying cynical, yeah. Arjuna was cynical. Maharaj Parikshit, at some point, he was also moved to compassion. I just want to make it, you might be aware, but just the personification of the age of Kali is different than the goddess Kali. who's the consort of Shiva, just they're different. Yeah, so I hear this is like application, because you're right there, like in the kingdom of Pariksha. But then right next door, there's the age of Kali personified, truly. And it's like I hear emotion in your voice. And so yeah, you're not, you're pretty sure your service or your husband's service is not to take up your sword and go, chop off someone's head. And at the same time, there is natural a sense of pain and outrage. So yeah, like what's your integration? And I hear you're in that question. You're in that question. Yes. And thanks for sharing. One thing and right at the beginning of your sharing, Anandini, yeah, you meant about like to reevaluate, because that's it. Like we trust the teacher, and we expect that, like I'm gonna have my worldview expanded, and things that I was, conceptions I thought I was attached to, they proved to be upside down and topsy-turvy. And yeah, so Arjuna, yeah, he was open for his value. That's a term you used, for his values to be reevaluated. And if we're not open to that, then there's no meaning of a relationship with a true pure devotee spiritual teacher. And it means like he knows more than me. He's smarter than me. He's like way along these. He's completely pure. So whereas like if I'm attached to some conception, then it means like the idea of guru, spiritual master, just becomes like a fashionable thing. I have my pet guru here. But if we're really like Arjuna, no, he was ready for his world to be turned upside down, his values to be reevaluated. I'm reminded just in what you share, because I heard you got emotion when you hear, no, actually your cynicism was true. The butcher had come, and so the cows know that. I remember when we were in Haaretz Yisrael, in Israel, and this was before we discovered the Druze and Arab preaching, and I was 1980, 1984 or 85, and we were doing these like Indian silk paintings, and I was assisting Ishvara Krishnadas Prabhu, and he was one of my mentors in Krishna consciousness, and I was just kind of tagging along. And we were going door to door in an affluent neighborhood, maybe Tel Aviv or outside of Tel Aviv. And so we got to a place, and then Ishvara Krishna, he could see from the name who it was, and someone answered the door. And it turned out, I mean, I didn't understand this till after a little later when he whispered something to me. But this was the I'm telling an Israel story, actually. This was the owner and founder of the biggest butcher company in all of Israel. I'm forgetting the name now. And it was a guy's, this was 1984, he was probably in his late 70s. And you can, like super thick, heavy karma. And then, and anyhow, but he liked Murgari the hunter. Of course, this is worse than Murgari the hunter, but it turned out, yeah, he was the founder and owner of like the biggest butcher company in all of Israel. We happened to, by random, not in this affluent neighborhood, and he let us in. He was there with his wife, and they were looking at the paintings. And I remember when they were out of the room, Ishvara Krishnadas Prabhu whispered to me who he was. I go, really? That's interesting. And then he ended up giving some significant donation for paintings, and along the way, we got him some of Prabhupada's books. We in Hebrew, Bhagavad Gita in Hebrew, I think it was 1985, had just come out. And yeah, so I don't know if that's relevant, but so it was clear our role was not to start berating and insulting him and calling him names like Karmi demon or something like that. Same time, through Prabhupada's mercy, we engaged the money that he had gotten through whatever means we engage in and increasing the service to print Prabhupada's books and to support the devotees. So just thought to share that adventure.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Anandini.
Hare Krishna.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, everyone, for your attention and presence. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.